good to go. Ready?
Can you believe we're on episode 8 already?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
All right, Prairie Film Companion, episode 8.0. Take only. Here we go.
He did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the monster mash. From my laboratory in the castle east to the master bedroom where the vampires feast. The ghouls all came from their humble abodes to get a joke from my electrodes. They did the monster mash. It was a graveyard smash.
Hello, everyone. This is Gerardo Ramos. Just kidding. This is actually Kyle dressed as Gerardo Ramos. As you can see, I've got my airy hat, my French French Star Wars shirt, which is which Gerardo also has. I'm wearing a too large of coat for the season.
You mean which I also have? You're giving yourself away, Kyle.
And a camera, and I'm also doing my O face. Across from me, we have a gay cowboy lampshade.
Hey, what are you laughing at? I'm Orville Peck in a slapstick sitcom. Hey, baby.
Why I oughta.
And to my right,
What is that?
my name is really Anthony Gertz, but to my right we have, I don't know, who is this vixen and what are you?
Captain Yoshi Dollarama Man.
Captain Yoshi Dollarama Man. Tell
Wow.
us a little bit about your costume. Take us through the layers. I don't know if you want to go top to bottom or bottom to top, but it's all very intriguing.
I'll start from the top. So I was in a rush to buy an outfit. I only had several.
Into the mic.
Sorry, guys. This is me, Edmon. I'll explain my costume. You're probably wondering what concoction this is, but I was in a rush to buy a costume, and I only had so much time. I was at the Dollarama, so I bought this cool hat.
For our listeners who can't see, when he squeezes the flap, the hands on the pumpkin flap open.
Does it-
No,
does
wait,
the other one
can
work?
you describe the outfit to
The other
our
one's
listeners?
a little, yeah, let me just give
Right.
you a visual rundown. So on top, we've got what looks to be a fuzzy pumpkin with green hands, as pumpkins are wont to do. It's got little flaps hanging down as if to be legs. It looks a little bit more like the physiology of a frog, to be honest. And when Edmund squeezes the feet, the arm flaps open as if to say, high five, hug. This orange contraption pumpkin thingy is sitting atop a plush Yoshi head, which sits atop the beautiful noggin of our very own dear, sweet Edmond Rotea. On his eyes, he's wearing what looks to be a visual negligee. It's like lingerie for the upper face.
Like a masquerade ball.
That's a
eye
woman's
mask.
underwear, right?
Yes. One of many that have been
Like
flying
eyes
his
wide
direction.
shut mask, kind of. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
I hope
Edmund.
you like it, everyone.
What to me this is from a scene of 50 Shades of Pinoy.
It's about a weebo who's a
I like.
Got
Very,
the
very
ears.
well done, Edmund. You're beautiful.
And who is this vexing vixen across from me, kitty corner?
Yes. So I, for the listeners, not viewers, am dressed as the incomparable, the 8-time Oscar-winning costume designer extraordinaire of probably all time in Hollywood, Edith Head.
Wow.
Ooh. Can we get an applause? Well, she was not, in fact, gunned down.
She was not gunned down. In fact, she gunned people down with her costume design.
Yes, she did.
She was so badass. She's best known for work in Hitchcock with all of the stars. Cary Grant, everybody who you know, top to bottom, she dressed immaculate.
Oscar winner with a bob that doesn't quit, Edith Head, queen.
Wow, she did.
In continuing my Gerardo impression, I'm gonna be a little bit.
Just a little handsome.
Whoa, that's quite a bust.
Let's see if I have a sound effect for that.
It should be.
It's usually really laughed at. Wait, no, this is actually the sound effect usually that happens. Yeah. Just laughs. No, not that.
I'm watching Drag Race. I was expecting like padding or something.
I just couldn't. There's so much little
But
accoutrements.
then I just
couldn't go all
realized
the
how
way.
stupid it was to expect that. So
No, but one thing I did, if I could just gush about this for a second, I loved finding women's clothing. I went to Value Village, various thrift stores, and old men would look at me weird as I'm trying on all of these blouses, which feel amazing, by the way.
Do they button the other way?
They button the other way, so it's like, ugh. It's like mental gymnastics. It's like calculus.
You know why they were
Like,
originally
oh.
designed like that? So that men could do them up, or they could be done
Right.
up for them.
That's right. Yeah. So then, doesn't that mean that equally women can undo men's garments?
I guess it works for lesbians, yeah.
Interesting. Nice. But yes, I decided to go with Edith Head because I've been watching way too many Hitchcock movies, and she's the GOAT. So
how is your head?
Oh, yeah.
we're about to find out. So
Oh,
let's get
Gerardo, come on. We have a lady in our presence. We're so sorry to our listeners.
our listener.
Our listeners.
Porque te va?
Okay, so if everybody gets the costume, I'm Orville Peck. I'm going to take this off now so I can wear my headphones.
Oh yes, I should take off my earrings because, good God,
Quick costume change.
oh my God, women have so
Kyle,
much to do.
I am so
Owie.
curious. What are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about.
You mean Gerardo?
Well, because for those listening, when you get the episode, it would have just been Halloween. But we're recording this just a couple days before Halloween, so we're in the spooky spirit. We were gonna do just horror, but I thought that was a little bit too broad. We bounced it back and forth, and we decided on science fiction.
Ooh, maybe hold it a little closer to you.
He's holding up books, listeners. One of them is Sci-Fi Films book provided by our own dear sweet St. Edmon Rotea.
It has a picture of the Terminator on it, and then science fiction horror.
Oh.
So
I
it
hope
has to be and no cheating. Hereditary is not sci-fi horror. Excellent film, but that's not science fiction.
Okay, so
That paranormal doesn't count.
right away I have so many questions.
Wait,
Yeah.
before we do that, can we do a fun little exercise? I'm curious about your guys' Halloween experiences. I didn't do a lot of it growing up. I'd like to know what you guys did for Halloween, or if there are any funny Halloween stories from childhood. Can we do that?
Edmund first.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. It's Edmon in the house, or Captain Yoshi Dollarama Man.
50 Shades of Pinoy. You have to say it.
50 Shades of Pinoy. And I guess one of my most memorable Halloween moments, aside from trick-or-treating and getting candy, and then later organizing it and picking out all the unwrapped and bad and cocaine-laced candies, was maybe sitting down like the night before, and especially on a Friday night or Saturday, and watching back-to-back episodes of the classic Canadian television show for kids and teenagers, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Oh. Do, 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 do. And I
let's
found
pull up
out
the music real quick. Keep talking.
This is the second time we would have had it.
and the first episode I ever saw was way back in probably the early 90s, where there's a story about a young man who finds this beautiful young woman dressed in 1950s clothing, and he picks her up and gives her a ride. And then, spoiler alert, we find out that she died on her prom night way back in the 50s, and that the young woman he picked up was a ghost. So
spooked.
I'm sorry I
That-
spoiled that episode for
that-
you, and I hope you're able to fall asleep tonight.
That episode they used the song in the still of the night. In the still of the night.
You have a great memory.
Yeah, like throughout the because I
Beautiful.
watched it recently because I'm a loser.
Yeah, that's right. All the episodes. If
That's
you want
right.
to watch
You are.
it,
Lou.
But
That's what you're gonna say.
watching that as an adult, I thought, they got the rights to use that song.
yeah. And
you
what's
know? Like,
did you watch it on YouTube?
I think it's on Netflix.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know.
Because,
I
it
forget
is.
how I watched
Like
it.
I was really
yeah.
curious.
Yeah, it is.
And I saw that all the episodes, every season, every episode was freely available on YouTube, and I thought, is this like a legit like YouTube, or is it like a pirated? But I was really surprised. I was able to find like all the episodes online. I think it's being distributed by some other company for free.
It's got the bouncing
Yeah.
YTV logo in the corner and like a bit of a
Oh, no.
cut of like the zone.
Up
where they're
next.
cutting
Uh-oh.
it. Up next. And then it cuts. And then,
But for those of you who are curious, watch Are You Afraid of the Dark? A great
And
show.
you will be.
Are you afraid of the dark men? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. And then what was that name of the Mexican TV show? Horror Mercado?
Casas de la Spooky.
So
I
check
just
that out.
made it
Check
up.
that show out too. I haven't really watched it
I
yet.
just made that up.
You're
That's
talking
not-
about the Mexican series that
Yes.
you showed. It's kind of like a Mexican Twilight Zone. It's
Yeah.
called La Hora Marcada, and it's
Thank you.
It's like the
What's
the
Marcada?
proper hour. Directly translated, it's like the marked hour.
Oh, that's
it's like
spooky.
the hour. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's freely available
cool.
on YouTube as well. Or there's episodes that have been uploaded to YouTube, but I'm not sure if there's a quality English translation.
Yeah.
So you might have to brush up on your Espanol, but check that show out too. It's awesome.
Wait, was this going into your story of childhood, or was that your story watching it?
Yeah. Like I guess, Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Oh, okay.
Highlight of my Halloween youth.
Did you do trick or treating much?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, Canada.
You grew up in Millwoods, Edmonton.
That's right. Or
Did you ever
tell
what they call
UNICEF it?
Killwoods,
Millwoods is not that dangerous.
because there's lots of shootings back in the late 90s or early 2000s. But now it's a lot better.
But they knew each other.
Yeah, it was usually
Like that's what whenever I hear
Well-
about violence in Millwoods, it's always like they knew each
Well,
other.
there's one
I'll
guy-
be fine if
There's
I go-
one guy who was killed in his driveway shoveling the snow because they mistook him for his brother.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
So,
wow.
well, I guess he was kind of known, but just the wrong sibling that they killed.
Mm.
It really sucks for the guy who died and his brother who survived.
I'm sorry to make light of that.
But
Yeah.
that was. Anyways, what about your guys' memories?
Andrew
Let's go to-
Thanu.
Let's go to Anthony Curtin.
Oh right,
So-
yeah.
Sorry,
sorry,
So
Anthony.
I was
Forgot about you.
I was
Throw
raised
some
by
shade.
I was raised by a very health conscious mother, and she would allow us, get this, to keep 10 pieces of candy from
10.
our whole haul
Whoa.
and the whole night. And we would go out a lot because the more you go out, the more likely it is that you're able to find a big chocolate bar.
Oh,
'Cause
yeah,
that counts
yeah.
as one item.
The big ones.
So for me, the highlight of trick or treating was one, the costume. That was fun.
Nice.
Going out and just like having an adventure with my siblings.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing was coming home with my pillowcase full of candy, dumping it on my bedroom floor with my older brother Nathan, sorting it into piles like coffee crisp would all go on one thing, the caramels all on one thing.
Yeah.
Oh
You
my
counted
God.
it. We traded. We do is we trade. Even though we knew we
wow.
wouldn't get to keep our spoils, we traded to try to, like, I would try to amass coffee crisp and he would try to amass a crispy crunch. And even though we only knew we'd get 10 at the end of the night, which is
What would happen with the rest?
I don't know.
Yes.
My mom would eat it or throw it away or give it away or something like
Damn.
that. But
be a
She
waste.
was eating it.
yeah.
But hey, you can't argue with results, right? Like you're very fit.
And my mom's huge now.
Oh no.
I hope your mom's not listening.
Robin's a saint and she is not huge.
She's like the mom in Gilbert Grape. They had to install columns. She's not. She's
That's
not like.
so
She's
Mom
a
burn.
wonderful woman and very svelte.
Okay.
Svelte.
Okay, Gerardo.
That's good. And she's got quite a nice bosom.
Oh, the cheering came out of nowhere. Sorry.
What about you? What about you two?
North side.
I
Let's go, Kyle.
loved trick or treating. Most years I went as Dracula because I love Dracula. I remember one year when I was Dracula, not a vampire, but Dracula. My mom gelled my hair back, and she said,
cool.
"Oh, you have to look handsome because Dracula, that's how he gets his victims. He's handsome." And
Not in
then-
Bram Stoker's Dracula from 2002. Not sexy.
yeah, not
Oh, right.
sexy.
Like a monster.
Or in a lot, but Bela Lugosi. And a few years when I was really little, I went as like a warlock, but I was a witch, right? Because my sister went as a witch, and I wanted to be it, and that's an easy costume. Just it's like almost like a ghost, like you just put on the black, right? Then first year I had like a really fancy costume in kindergarten. I went as Aladdin after he became ballin'. Like
oh, cool.
wealthy.
Really?
It was one of those costumes where it
cool.
came as a kid and my mom sewed it, right?
Whoa.
But my favorite Halloween memory was one year, I forget which, when I was quite little. My parents were downstairs, like watching TV, and me and my sister were in my mom and dad's room, like sorting our candy. And it was a good year. Like we had like a few sorting bins we brought out for the candy.
Oh, what a haul.
Yeah, it was good. And Poltergeist came on YTV, and that was the first time I saw Poltergeist.
Ooh.
So.
Like you watched the entire movie.
Yeah, all
From beginning
Poltergeist.
to end.
Yes.
What's your favorite part?
So with the soft eye, not favorite part, but what I really like about that movie is it's just like a normal bland house. Like it could be any house that was built in the 1980s. There's nothing spooky about it. Like it's just so authentic. My favorite part, I don't know.
The clown.
I'm gonna be unconventional, even though that probably is my favorite part because it's everyone's favorite part. I just love when they play back the footage of the flash of light, the ghosts, and it's like these beams of light coming down the stairs, and there's that Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, and it was all like
score
hand,
that's
like hand drawn, right? Like this was before CG.
Yeah, like gel on glass panes and stuff. Like there was no CG, right?
I love that movie.
The exterior of the house still stands, and it's been owned by this Iranian guy for like 30 years, and he's supposedly has never seen the film, and the interiors the interiors were a set, but the exterior you can like take pictures.
And I feel sorry for that guy because there's probably a lot of people who drop by. It's kind of like the Amityville horror house.
Yeah, which
Lots of people drop by
changed the
every day.
house.
Yeah,
They got rid of the eyes.
He was Iranian?
Yeah, Iranian immigrant guy. Like he's American, but just in the documentary I saw, there was like some Iranian retiree guy. Like,
cool.
yeah.
Nice. Good for
Okay, look at it. Go. No, that's Indian.
I know
That's
I don't think
Indian.
that's
That's so
safe.
That's
insensitive.
horrible.
Iranian.
Iranian. Yo, man.
Perfect.
Get out of me house.
You've had your look now. Good on. Get off now.
You're making me feel very Irish.
I'm actually legitimately trying to do Iranian.
I thought that was
No, I'm
Irish.
just kidding. Iranian.
Balag.
Yeah. Oh, those are cool stories. It's cool to hear like your childhoods. That. My own was, again, I didn't do it a lot because, growing up in like a religious household, it was evil for the longest of times. My mom was like, "Oh no, that's like devil worship. You can't go do that." So as a childhood, I never had it really. I'd pretty much be at like church service eating when that was happening. Yeah. But as we were getting older, my very close friend started going out more, and his parents loosened up about it, so he would actually go. We were kind of like preteens probably, but I remember the same thing, using like pillowcases to like stuff all the stuff in, and then I'd sleep over, and in the morning we just have like mountains, and we'd be like eating candy all morning for breakfast. So it was a really good sweet memory, but I don't have tons of them, so I like hearing yours.
You'd come to a house and they were
We should go
giving away
trick-or-treating.
pop. No, we shouldn't.
After just having finished the documentary about the Waste Management Center, I wonder if November 1st, the conveyors are just candy wrappers
Right, that's a good point.
all day.
They're not recyclable, guys.
It's bad.
No,
for
don't
the
put them in the
environment.
recycle.
They're probably like super bad too. Like they don't
Yeah.
look recyclable or digestible in any way.
You never like carved pumpkins when you were a little kid?
No, actually, we didn't do that a lot. But one year, I like as a kid, I rarely won anything, and I won a pumpkin from like some school competition. And my mom, in like this cool way, she was like, "Okay, we can carve it if you want," but she's like, "I'm gonna make a cool candy from it." I'm like, "What?" And
Cool
she like
candy.
she candied the pumpkin.
Oh,
somehow.
that's
I don't know
cool.
how, but like it was delicious. It was like, yeah, it was like warm, and it kind of tasted like a bit of a cake. I don't know. It was just really nice.
I thought
That's
you were
the only
gonna
pumpkin I-
say she like made you carve Jesus on it or something.
Yeah,
My
that would be
Spooky.
my mom was raised Jehovah's Witness, And when she got married, moved to the suburbs, had kids, she still kind of believed it, but like just the general Christian stuff. But as soon as she found out, oh, I can celebrate holidays, she threw that part out of the window. And so she loved Halloween and Christmas, Valentine. Every holiday was like a big thing because she never got to do it.
That's cool.
Right?
Oh,
That's really sweet.
I didn't know that about Jehovah's Witness.
They can't do
They
holiday.
don't celebrate holidays.
They can't do holidays except I think Passover and they no blood transfusions.
So
But they can drink.
They can just celebrate the boring holidays.
Yeah.
Holiday.
No offense to our Passover heads.
Sunday.
Best Christmas song ever.
So yes, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing.
Thank
It's
you.
really, really nice to.
I feel ever
hear
more
those
bonded to you
stories.
three.
I know. It's
James
so nice.
Bond.
Wow,
to
and
us.
there goes our bond.
So science fiction
He farted, folks.
horror.
Yeah, maybe just like if you could define what that means to you.
So science fiction horror would be basically what it is, a confluence of horror, so legitimately scary and or creepy themes, but within a science fiction oeuvre. So for example, The Exorcist, although a lot of horror movies have kind of out of this world themes, something like The Exorcist would not be science fiction horror, that's paranormal. In the same vein, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, I would not necessarily count as horror, even though there's some spooky moments. It's just a kind of sci-fi movie, right? So in this, we're talking legitimately horror movies that are also science fiction. The kind of big one that leaps to Alien.
Yes.
Right? Like that's that sci-fi horror.
That's the
right?
pillar.
Scare, like haunted house in space, body horror, mutation. Yeah.
Got you.
And Frankenstein, I think, would the first big sci-fi horror.
It was a monster movie. So, before we really chew into that, I am coming at this a bit, or what I thought was ignorant until I started making a list. Normally, I'm in the habit of like making a page of complicated notes. It's like a web. This episode, I made half a page.
That's super
And
complicated.
that was the extent of my knowledge. And I was thinking, like, why? I have seen horror movies, but I don't seek them out because when I'm seeking out a movie, I tend to want an experience of like insight into like, sorry to use a cliche, pretentious term, but like the human condition. I'm like looking for insight in, and I tend to think that horror scary films were like a ride because they give you this adrenaline rush, and they're not really like, they don't really function to like plumb the depths of the human experience. But do you think that's just me getting in my own way?
So I would say that, and it really surprises me because I understand your perspective, but I've always felt like horror movies, more so than most movies, explore the human condition because they often answer an uncomfortable question. And a lot of good horror movies answer a lot of uncomfortable questions. So the big thing, I think I've used this before, Carrie, what if the girl we were mean to had powers, right? The Exorcist, what if your child's a monster out of nowhere? Like they oftentimes, I feel, answer an uncomfortable question and have so much humanity. And what's more human than fear and not knowing? And The Fly is we'll get into that later.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add too that a lot of the sci-fi horror movies are sometimes political, social, economic, like kind of this allegory for our times. Like you look at the Body Snatcher film, the Return of the Body Snatchers, where it came out of the 1950s, that Cold War era, that McCarthy period, where there was this American fear that they were communists, like living amongst them in the American population, and therefore there's this Red Scare. And then you have classic works of horror like Dracula, where it kind of, some people argue that it represents kind of the British xenophobia of the time, especially of like immigrants to England, and that Dracula is this foreigner who will take your woman and do these nefarious evil things. So yeah, there's certainly a reflection of the current political
Or Get Out.
economic landscape. Get Out, another great example. The African American suburban urban experience and that fear of being arrested, right? And kind of this experiencing this form of like overt or I don't know covert racism and kind of this exotification of one's race and then being desired. There's tons of examples. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
It's interesting.
It's interesting that you mentioned Get Out, because as soon as you said that, I thought, oh, that one actually is. Or you brought up Get Out. Sorry. You did. It's hard to tell because everyone's in a mask.
Same.
I know we all look the same. So hard.
So, because I thought, oh, that actually would count as science fiction as well, because it involves like mind spoilers, mind transference, and yeah.
I'd like to maybe add to that. All of this conversation sparked kind of some film studies history. I remember I can't remember what course it was. We had to read a particular article, and sorry, I'm going to get snobby about it for a second, but an article by Linda Williams, who I believe was like a really good feminist who looked at film and art and kind of its representation. It's called Film Bodies, Gender. Whoops, hold on. I'm missing the whole title. Gender, Genre, and Excess. And without going into like gross detail about it, pun not intended, she contrasts 3 genres of video film, if you will. Horror, pornography, and violence. And of course, on like a surface level, there's an argument made of like just the intrigue that it is, like seeing something, the novelty of seeing these different things. But what was more interesting was like actually an empathetic side that I found in the article, where she was actually giving a specific example, and pardon, it's about to get pretty graphic and gross, but she was giving the example of why in pornography in particular, it's enticing, well, supposedly to the watcher of this type of pornography, it's enticing to watch somebody take your ejaculate into their mouth, right? That specifically she dove into. I mean, on the surface level, you're like, okay, that's gross. That's pretty nasty. Or you're into that. But she made a very good point that like, she theorized that, something so personal and so deep and so secretive and usually looked upon as something gross to be hidden is just in an act so simply accepted, right? If you have a willing partner willing to do that, as in, say, a pornographic film, it is just an open acceptance of it, right? That acceptance of that fundamental thing that you've always had to hide, right? And so that's like one example, particularly to pornography. But looking at it broader, it really, really like made me think about a lot of the things that we take in and what we look at and why. And this article in particular was like phenomenal to spark that sort of intrigue. So I think on a surface level, it's because it's like, it's novel, right? It's something outside of our normal experience. But on another level, it connects with something very deeply rooted in us. And unfortunately, the ejaculate is a very extreme and gross example. But, I think even further still, something personal and deep and something maybe that we hide, that we don't show everybody. All right. And maybe that's the value some people find in watching a film like that.
And without that ejaculation, none of us would be here. None of you guys would be listening right now.
Well, not the way they're doing it.
Not in the mouth.
I know.
There's a raw animalistic humanity to watching pornography and watching kind of graphic horror violence.
Can I say something about that? So in what research I did for this podcast, because as I said, I've watched a handful of horror films. In fact, it was a scary movie, Wait Until Dark, that really sparked my love for movies in the first place. But they've done like physiological studies on people watching horror films, and they have this thing called ETP, the excitation transfer process. Ooh. So when you're watching a horror movie, it doesn't matter that much what kind or which one. Your heart rate will go up, your blood pressure will go up, your respiratory rate will go up. it is like a ride.
Right.
You have the same kind of physiological response as you would on a ride. But having gone through that adrenalized experience with a group of people always leaves people like leaving the theater. I don't know how it fares with people who watch horror films alone, feeling this elation because they've had this group experience. And I think that's sort of unique to horror because when you're watching a horror movie, you sit stiller. You writhe together. You scream together. You're like tuned to each other in a way that you aren't in a normal drama. I mean, unless the movie's really compelling, but just like it's like playing our bodies.
Yeah,
I would say I feel that comedy. If you watch a really funny movie in a theater, there is a bit of a sharing experience to that. So I wouldn't necessarily. I personally, as someone who loves horror, I don't know if that's 100% unique to horror.
Well, I think that's probably right. Like I don't think it's unique to horror, but of course it like manifests uniquely because it's like a scary experience. But I think that's even stronger to the point of like why we're attracted to it. Again, actually, sorry, I kind of misspoke on what the article was talking about. It wasn't violence. It was horror, pornography, and actually melodrama. Oh. So melodrama was, we have to cry, It's almost like, it's almost like the same impulse that we have to say watch pornography exists in wanting to expel tears and also, be scared out of our wits, right? So I think if anything, it's to strengthen the idea of that communal experience, that it's like something very unique. It is uniquely shared. It's so crazy.
I would say, like, watching a really good horror movie in an audience, like, that's great, because just hearing like a bunch of people scream, and then laugh after it, laugh at themselves.
I have so I may have shared my origin story, so to speak, like growing up homeschooled, not watching a lot of movies, and then being part of this film club. We watched Wait Until Dark. It was a very scary movie, and it has this really jumpy climax. It's so scary and it's so good. I had the pleasure of watching that film about 5 or 8 years ago, somewhere in that range, at the Royal Alberta Museum when they were at that old building. And they had this beautiful old theater, and they would play old movies on Mondays. And they would have a little preamble. Somebody would give a little introduction to the film, and they were showing Wait Until Dark. I was like, holy shit.
And it was a great choice.
It was one thing to watch it as kids with our little film club homeschool group kids. It was a whole other thing to watch it with a room chock full of old women, mostly old women, who had seen this movie in theaters. They're all so freaked out. They all screamed when the jumpy climax happened. And then, of course, all laughed.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I know.
That was a magic movie experience.
Audrey Hepburn in a scary movie.
One more thing about the science.
Even watching just the collective, this is uncomfortable. Like the Babadook, I think has maybe one jump scare, but I remember when I saw it, you could feel people being uncomfortable.
Right.
Like you could just feel it. Like, I don't like this. I don't like what she's saying to the kid. Like, I just don't like it,
Unsettled. And there's something about most horror movies are played at really low frequencies. Yeah. They're quiet movies generally, and that's how they build a lot of the suspense. The soundtracks even mimic this between like 20 and 50 hertz. And this is in the range of sound called infrasound, which Tom just kind of told me about, and my roommate. And this actually, like, if you hear enough of this frequency, it will affect your sleep. You'll get like a bad sleep, not just because of the psychological scares, because of its like effect on your body.
Whoa,
this sound.
That's trippy.
Yeah,
I've definitely felt that, like with certain movies.
Yeah,
or there's even movies that have made me feel that, and then I like definitely have a dream and I can't sleep right. Yeah,
I've been getting that with Dark.
I feel like the good rating of this was a good horror movie is not how much you jumped, not how scared you were when you watched it, but how uneasy it is to go to bed after you've seen the film for the first time.
Yeah.
That's the rating.
Yeah.
What's the film that made you scared to go to bed?
Recently or past?
Like any movie.
Oh wait. Oh.
You know what,
The one that did the worst recently of the past years for me was Tourist Trap.
Tourist Trap.
Because it has mannequins, and as you're falling asleep, you're like, are these fucking mannequins in here?
Yeah.
Yeah, mannequins at your house?
No. Okay. What do you think? Like, she probably does because she does, outfits, but...
There's a bit of audio from the film Tourist Trap. Oh, it's the whole thing on YouTube.
Yeah, it's...
Go find it. 1979.
Oh, yeah, the score is vaguely uncanny and strange. Oh, and Jackie's mom... Not Jackie. Donna's mom from That 70s Show is in it.
Oh, that's
Tanya
so
Roberts,
cool.
Yeah,
right?
Tanya Roberts.
Cool.
This isn't science fiction.
That's a pretty creepy soundtrack. I've never heard of this film.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna watch it later on.
So see, now there's why I would seek out science fiction to get to this, to where the confluence is going to happen, because I love science fiction with all my heart, because I think that science fiction, the function of it, it's just like inherently about plumbing the depths of the human experience. Okay. What would we do if we could no longer procreate children of men, or interplanetary stuff, or if aliens invaded, and so therein lies this interesting overlap where these themes are used, but then they're used in a different way. They're used to scare us. And you mentioned Alien. This is the
Alien's such a... Here's the great thing about Alien is, I think Ridley Scott said this about his movie. It's a haunted house in space. Like that movie really just that. No one can hear you yell in space. No one can hear you scream. Fry scream. But and if you watch that movie, it's really just big scary haunted house in space. It's so elegant. It's so creepy, and that the xenomorph in Alien. That's a scary fucking alien.
This is like a good example of that really low frequency.
Yeah. Oh, and space lends it so well to horror too, because there's so many excuses to have that low frequency hum.
And this idea of dissonance as well. When you hear dissonant sounds, when you hear really consonant sounds that work well together, your right hemisphere lights up. When you hear dissonant sounds that don't go well together, it really annoys your left brain.
Wow.
And so that actually, the overstimulation of your left brain through all this dissonance can also keep you up.
Yeah, Alien's great because I think I watched it really late. Probably watched it in film school because we had to. And I remember being like, oh, cool, a sci-fi alien movie. I'm going to like that. And then when it gets moody and dark and they're crawling through the smoke and you don't know what's there and it's going to pop out at any moment. It's done so well.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is brilliant horror. This is better than actual horror I've seen.
Yeah.
Oh, a kitty.
Jonesy. The first time I watched the movie in full was my family was staying with my half brother and his family in Grand Prairie, and I slept downstairs in the living room by myself next to the VHS collection. One of the movies I watched was Volcano, which was horrible. But then I watched Alien alone as a little kid on a big screen. Oh, great.
That
on VHS.
On VHS.
Chest
But
burster?
widescreen VHS.
The chest burster.
What's
it called?
Chest burster. Chest burster is
all right. Face
the
hugger,
egg,
chest.
the informal name of it, but the species is xenomorph.
Gotcha. Yeah, when that thing pops out first, that's probably one of the best jump scares that affects you, and you're just oh, shit's going crazy now. It's not just scary, go away.
I think Veronica Cartwright, the other woman on the crew, so they weren't told that I know it's kind of a famous story. They weren't told for that take that it was going to happen. And so when it bursts out, you can tell they're reacting. And even she screams, and then after they're all trying to set him down, and you can see her reaction, and you can kind of tell she's almost oh wait, just what's going on, right? It's so sincere. She's What? Like,
the way he's like convulsing on the table is like it's beyond demonic possession. You know, it's like it's fucked.
Yeah.
So it's really
painful
good at just like erupting into craziness. I like that. What about, how do you feel about the subsequent Alien films?
Aliens?
Like Alien Covenant, or
Well, I'd say like
Prometheus?
Aliens 2.
Okay. So here's the thing. In order, these are the directors: Ridley Scott, James Cameron, David Fincher, French guy who did Amelie. And then AVP was Paul W.S. Anderson, who actually did the Resident Evil movie. Not Paul Thomas. Paul what? Who did he did
Wes Anderson? Wow.
he did
Just joking.
he did Event Horizon, a few other notable movies. Still not a great director, but
Fast and Furious?
no. Maybe he did, I don't know. But so all the Alien movies, they had these amazing directors. Aliens, I've never really liked it that much. And I really like James Cameron, but I don't.
And
it's not. It just feels like it's not Alien. I want to go back to the haunted house.
Yeah,
feels like
that's
it's
fair.
dumb action movie.
Yeah, the only thing I remember, I've never seen Aliens, but I do remember
What?
the scene where they're riding around in that RV, like in space, and there's that little girl, and
Ripley,
that's all
Ripley, Ripley. Mostly,
Oh, I don't know.
mostly. Alien 3, they're on like a colony.
Yeah, like
And-
a penal colony,
Yeah,
right?
penal
And it's
colony,
all
and a lot of
dudes,
them are like fucking scout. They're British, and the fourth
and they're all
one,
bald.
yeah, and the fourth one, there's some laughable parts, but the underwater part is they have to like swim through a part, and it's away from the alien, and it's just so claustrophobic because it's like get the fuck out of the
Yeah,
water,
I
but
hate
they
that.
can't just surface because there's like a ceiling, and
Yeah.
Winona Ryder is a robot.
Isn't there I kind of wanted to ask is, like, what popped to mind when I was thinking those aliens was Starship Trooper. Now, that's not really sci-fi horror, is it?
No, but that's a good movie.
Yeah,
That's a
I
low-key
know.
good movie.
That's an awesome movie. Oh, that is sci-fi, though, right?
Yeah, it's about
yeah.
it's
Okay.
really about propaganda and
Yeah.
So
but not
good.
horror.
yeah, it's not
It's not
spooky.
scary.
The Blob.
The Thing.
The Thing. We'll get to John Carpenter when I say it's time. The Blob. I haven't finished the original one with Steve McQueen because it's somewhat dated even for a sci-fi movie from the 50s that you're game for. But the 80s remake I just saw like a month ago, and they actually hold quite true to the original 50s one. Like it ends in a movie theater just like the original. But the best part is we all know every horror movie from the 1980s had to have over the credits a hair metal song, which Gerardo will now play for us.
Let's see if it comes up. This was the 80s one, right?
Yeah, that's the 80s one.
Okay, that's just the credits.
Don't. Stay here and wait for Jerry. I'm going.
No,
All
I
right,
don't think
all right.
that's- I don't think that's it.
I think this is a clip. I think you have two clips playing at once. Just play the Blob 1988
Oh.
theme.
Yeah, sorry. I was actually playing Tourist Trap underneath all that. Okay, wait. The Blob.
We sit here for an hour and a half waiting. The Blob theme 1988. Although the 50s theme is pretty cool too.
Okay, here we go.
I don't think this is it.
No?
No, play Blob end credit song.
Searching. Jamie, can you pull that up for us?
God, that grill is ripped.
End
Just type in end credits.
game.
There it is. Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Here we go, folks.
The movie's just ended.
Forks.
He's got the vial of purple liquid. Credits.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Listen to that chuggy guitar. Yeah. All right, the rest of the podcast is us just air playing his instruments. Edmon, you're singing. There you go. Kyle, you brought this on yourself.
It's good.
It is good.
Just wait for the chorus real quick.
Here we go. Let's go!
Okay, that's good. Wait, actually, humor me. Play the 1950s Blob theme, because that interesting contrast.
Okay, 1950s. Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, that one, opening title and theme. This is actually pretty good.
It looks cool. Ooh. Hey, kids. Want to go for a surf?
Did you say Lightning McQueen?
I did.
That's the character from Cars.
That is one of my favorite sci-fi horror
And just
films.
wait for the chorus, too, for this one.
A bomb bomb.
Ooh, Edith Head would get down to this shit.
And this was quite out of character for a horror theme from the 50s. Usually it was never this ironic. It was usually like da da da, you know.
You need good claps.
And the lyrics are about the blob too. You gotta hear the lyrics.
He's a blobby blobby blob. He's really squishy and gummy. Do we want an Edmon rap? Edmon, throw it down!
Wait, here it's coming. It's coming. Beware of the blob.
It creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around.
This is groovy.
A splotch, a blotch. Be careful of the blob.
Beware of the blob.
It creeps and leaps and glides
Alright,
and
that's
slides
good.
across the floor, right through the door.
I love when you hear songs like that, and I just love thinking about this particular sounds. Like they're in a studio, being like, "Okay, Steve, we
Yeah.
almost got the pop, but can you just wet
do it
your
again.
Oh no, that was a
Yeah.
little too wet, Steve. We're gonna have to take 4.
Those are great.
And it
Yeah.
opens
Whoa.
with like a oh Bobby, I don't know. Wait, what's that in the sky? And they're at a convertible. And then the movie's kind of downhill from there.
Wow, those are great. Nice.
I gotta watch The Blob. I haven't seen it, but if you want to see a great film, watch the 1980s film The Stuff, which is a satirical parody of The Blob, but instead of this blob-like material creature thing, it's kind of a satire and kind of critique of consumerism, because as we all know, consumerism started to be very rampant in the 1980s, and people wanting to consume this ice cream-like yogurt material that unfortunately transforms them into homicidal zombie creatures.
Oh.
The Stuff.
The Stuff is a great parody name of the Blob because it's even more nebulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just funny. It's like, what is it? It's by Larry Cohen, who actually did some non-parody horror. And
Oh wow.
yeah.
I really
that
like the
was awesome.
sequel, The Right Stuff.
Oh.
Funny man.
That's the opposite. That's science reality non-horror. All right, now we got to talk about The Thing.
The Thing.
Okay, good.
Yep.
Dude.
Again, I have not watched these, man.
The original 1950s one, which was The Thing from Another World by Howard Hawks.
What? Howard Hawks?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love Howard Hawks.
Yeah, Howard Cox. So I tried to get into it the other night. I just couldn't. I don't know why. But interesting thing, in the night, most of the audience has probably maybe seen the 1980s one.
Mm-hmm.
In John Carpenter's The Thing, there's this light effect where it's like The Thing in like Craigley font.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually in the original too.
Cool.
But it's done
Whoa.
slightly differently. Than John Carpenter's The Thing. I don't really have a lot to say outside of it's off the hook. That's it.
Nice.
Oh, with a score by Ennio Morricone.
No way! Really?
But it's not. It's very un-Ennio Morricone. It's very just like
Well, that's still cool.
subdued. It's very
Yeah,
like just
like we know
synth,
him. Like we know him
subdued.
for that, but it'd be cool to like see something else.
See what he does with Scary.
Yeah. Hold
Yeah.
on, let me get to some Ennio.
Ennio
the trailer,
Morricone,
right?
rest in peace.
God.
So,
Oh, he said.
he said,
He said the thing. Take a drink.
sounds like a horror film.
I'm getting scared.
The
just
soundtrack
listening
is
to it.
overwhelming.
Talk about jump scares too in that movie.
Chewie?
John Carpenter's.
Cool.
And then lastly,
Yeah.
of the holy trinity of 80s horror remakes, The Fly
David Cronenberg.
by
Yeah.
David Cronenberg.
so
Starring
So
I just remember
Edmund,
the
you
first one, not so much the second or third one. Other than the second one, I think has
There's
a
a-
teenage boy.
there's a
there's a sequel
third
to
one.
Fly?
I think there's a third one.
There's not a third one. Go to hell. No way.
I don't know. Maybe it was a director.
The theme fits. So,
So I want you to talk about The Fly.
I don't. Yeah, there is a Fly 3. Or no, wait. I'm just trying to look
you
up.
cray.
Oh, I think it's just Fly 2. I could be mistaken.
Second one has
It
some
says,
good horror.
I see
that's
an
it.
article says Jeff Goldblum is totally down for The Fly 3. So it's not out yet.
Well, there it is.
But soon to be.
But he
Can you imagine
died.
current Jeff Goldblum, this iteration of Jeff Goldblum in a horror movie? That would be so funny.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, he's going to be already, his skin's going to be
fucking-
crumbling off of his
Yeah,
body.
talking
already,
like Jeff
so-
Goldblum
Well, then-
does now.
God, he was ripped in that though.
Yeah.
Edmund, have you seen the original?
No, not the. I haven't seen The Fly from the 1950s, but I do
It's-
have.
It's cheesy,
childhood
good
memories
fun,
of-
and it's got Vincent Price.
yeah,
He's not the star, but
and I think it's like a human body, but
Yeah,
the head
it's
is like
stupid.
a fly's head.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's-
yeah,
it's
So
yeah.
cheesy
It's got-
1950s
Is that
low
like-
budget horror B grade.
Is that
Yeah.
what The
It's a big
Simpsons?
grade
yeah,
horror
help
uses?
me.
Oh,
yeah, that's
okay,
that's
yeah.
The Simpsons.
I'm gonna find
But
that
the
while you-
pod machine that's from the
That's-
original.
that's-
So The Simpsons did something neat in that they mixed the remake and the original into a parody.
Mhm.
Who here has seen the Fly remake?
Oh, yes. The Cronenberg.
Oh,
It is brilliant.
It was one of those horror movies that it was always on when I was a kid and later on a teenager because I think I talked on one of the episodes. I was talking about movies worth watching where there's this government funded TV channel called Access Network. It was funded by the provincial government. It was around from like the 70s up until maybe the early 2000s. And they had this program called Movies Worth Watching, and they would have films like RoboCop and even The Exorcist and The Fly, like movies that you don't really see on a lot of other channels today. Well, at least The Exorcist. But yeah, I remember seeing The Fly like all the time, and it's certainly a memorable movie.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of a tragic movie, too, because
I know.
Yeah.
You really feel
it's
bad for him.
so it's
he
like
falls in love with that woman, but he can never,
I
have a happy life
it's
together.
It's really about the fear of becoming a parent. Like I
parent.
really think what that because she gets pregnant, right?
Right.
That's
And
right.
I feel like that's really the thing about the movie is a lot of people thought it was about the HIV/AIDS crisis.
Right.
And Cronenberg
It came out
said
at that time.
okay, I see what you're saying. That wasn't in my mind when I made it, but I see what you're saying, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I really think it's the fear of I think it's about two things. Seeing someone you love destroy their life.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's
it's an allegory. for
yeah,
that
like
kind of
whether
fear.
it's drug addiction, disease, whatever. Let's listen to the trailer.
You can keep talking.
There is a limit.
I want to hear a bit of this because the tagline is famous.
Molecular decimation, breakdown, and reformation is inherently purging.
Some good hair.
Where our greatest creations.
yeah. Sorry, guys, you're not
watching.
Something went wrong, Seth. When you went through, something went wrong.
You are about to go beyond that limit.
It's a great voice.
The tagline.
Those weird hairs that were growing out of your back, I had them analyzed. But they were definitely not human.
If you saw how scared and angry and desperate he is.
I'm sure Typhoid Mary was a very nice person, too, when you saw her socially.
No!
You're afraid to be destroyed and recreated, aren't you?
You're changing, Seth. Everything about you is changing.
Oh no. What's happening to me? Am I dying?
I want to know what's going on.
What does the disease want?
It wants to turn me into something else.
Oh no.
A fly got into the transmitter pod with me that first time when I was alone.
Don't go back to it.
Could be contagious.
I'm afraid.
Don't be afraid.
No. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
So crazy good.
So Be Afraid, Be Very Afraid comes from
Yeah,
that movie?
Oh, Howard Shore scored that.
It was a huge hit when it came out. And what's interesting about it too is, you know how Cronenberg, you really have a feeling of his movies, and you don't. I don't really look at his movies as very Hollywood, because a lot of them, they still feel quite indie. Even something like Existence. Still feels,
or Cosmopolis.
Yeah. But The Fly, it feels like a weird, this is a Hollywood Cronenberg movie. Like it feels very understated. It's very
like it.
obviously Toronto in it too. Like there's obvious shots of the CN Tower.
Young and Bluer.
Yeah.
Spadina and...
I think his most Hollywood movie would probably be Dead Zone from
1983.
You know, because
something's going to happen. No.
Yeah, exactly.
I just wanted to share about The Fly that I hadn't seen it again like kind of until late in the game, and I made a handful of friends watch it, and we thought it was going to be like very like schlocky, cheesy, and man, did we ever get like a rude awakening. Some of my friends were like, "Are we actually watching this?" Like they got like physically, viscerally affected, and I was like, "This is amazing," because like I love when you're showing a movie to friends and it's just like everyone's again in this communal experience. It's just like we're all gonna get fucked right now, and it was brilliant because afterwards we're like, that was amazing. How brilliant is this movie? Like the way you see this man fall apart, and the attachment you have to him is so powerful. I loved that. I was like, yeah. I mean, I always loved Cronenberg before that, but I hadn't seen this one until like super late. But a brilliant film.
Part where he gives his insect politics spiel and Gina Davis is crying and then walks out, gets in the car with her ex and says like, no, we have to do this. I have to get the abortion tonight. And she's just freaked out. Like, am I going to have a fly baby? Right. Like what's going on? And she says, I don't want it in my body. I don't want it in my body. Like that's so visceral.
Right.
And it's just disgusting. The whole
It is.
throws up on donuts and sucks it up.
Yeah. It's like it's all.
I gotta
like
watch
you
this movie
can't-
again. I
you
don't
can't
remember
look-
it.
If you
Can't
want to
let
go
it
on a
away.
diet,
Yeah.
like that was when it came out, people on diets would go to see it to like
Really?
help.
No way.
Yeah, no,
I
that's
did not know that.
I don't know if that was 100% marketing, but that's supposedly a thing that people did when it came out. It was popular with people on diets.
Put you off your lunch.
Yeah, and it does.
Wow.
So gather with some friends, get some good food,
Eat first,
eat a lot, eat more than you normally would, and then
Don't.
throw it up and eat it up again.
great film. Great film. Is that a good segue into Cronenberg and more modern sci-fi horror films?
Oh, yeah.
Gentlemen?
Yeah.
What's considered modern?
I don't know. Well,
Let's talk about Existence and work our way forward.
I like Existence.
I love the
have seen that one.
Existence. Yeah, especially you know, since we're living in this new electronic age where we're all sitting in front. Well, for a lot of people who are working from home during COVID-19, I was one of them. I'm still working from home 7-8 months later. We're living in this electronic world. You know, a lot of things we do is online.
Can you maybe just explain what Existence is for those that don't know?
So for those of you who aren't aware of Existence, came out in 1999, and also a David Cronenberg film, and it stars Jennifer Jason Leigh. I can't remember the exact premise, and I'm not going to read from Wikipedia to bore you all.
I know the premise.
Yeah, go ahead. Kyle,
But
if you-
So
go ahead.
it's basically these two people are playing a VR game, but the VR is super realistic. Like when they go into the virtual reality, it's basically reality, right? And again, I vaguely remember the premise either, but it's they're tracking down someone or something. There's some sort of espionage.
It's like a criminal.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's got everyone in it. Like Willem Dafoe's in it, and at one point he's like, "I wouldn't use that bioport again, except for a toaster."
Jude
Yes.
Law, Don McKellar.
And
Some
the
great
guns,
Canadians.
the gun's
Yeah.
really cool. It's like
Yeah,
it doesn't look
it's
like
all
a
these
regular
bone
gun. It's
pieces.
this
Right,
bio weapon gun, like something like an H.R. Geiger
Click it
design from
together,
Aliens.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but it's a really cool film, and they have these little things called GamePod devices, and it kind of reminds me of other films like David Cronenberg's classic 1983 film Videodrome, where spoiler alert, there's that one scene where his hand kind of transforms into a gun, and the whole point that a lot of film theorists, film studies, snobbish type people like Gerardo would say that it's kind of it's like this it's kind of an allegory for with Videodrome. It came out when channels like CNN and cable television was beginning to become more popular, and it talks about how the media has the ability to impact and shape people's bodies, and it certainly influenced fashion and how people look. They want to kind of ascribe to this this certain ideal, and now perhaps in this online age, especially in this social media influencer era, people want to look a certain way. There's this memification of fashion and style and how people should look physically. And maybe Existence is kind of the online update to that. And it's really cool because it came out in 1999, and now we have virtual reality headsets that you can buy and get lost and trapped in your own virtual world.
I mean, more than that, you can like have sex with the virtual dolls and buy the equipment to do
Yes,
so.
that's right.
The
really have sex over
sexual
the line.
imagery in the movie is quite like when they get plugged into the thing. It looks
And
like
then,
a
like, they, like-
penis is
Yeah.
being put in your spine.
It's like an
and
umbilical
and
cord,
they, like,
right?
move accordingly. They're like, ugh.
Which we all want to do to Jennifer Jason Leigh and Jude Law and Willem Dafoe.
And
let's be
Don
realistic.
McKellar.
And Don
So,
and Ian Holmes in it too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Sarah Pauli's. Oh yeah, she's at the end for like a blink.
Sarah Pauli?
Canadian movie.
I think,
Yeah.
Canadian movie.
you got to do that one for Canada, right?
For Canada.
You got it.
Jennifer Jason Leigh's dual citizen.
Oh, I didn't realize she was Canadian too.
Yeah.
And her father was a famous actor who was killed during the filming of the Twilight Zone, the movie.
That's her dad?
Yeah.
What was his name?
So her dad was Vic Morrow,
Oh.
a famous actor, and he like in 50s, 60s, 70s, and he was like older when he was in his 80s, like his 60s or 70s. And what happened is they were filming this scene where it was like some sort of Vietnam War era scene, and there was like a helicopter, and unfortunately something happened on the set that him and two young youth who were playing these Vietnamese kids died.
Who were
And,
working illegally, by the way.
Yeah, probably. And so that's why safety is like a big thing on Hollywood studio productions, or like any movie set for that matter. It's because of that accident that happened, one of the most horrific pyrotechnic accidents.
Although, like, I do put a lot of blame on John Landis. Like, he was overworking them. They were saying we shouldn't be doing this. He's like, let's just do it anyways. It's the 80s. I'm a director.
And
Coke.
So they still have, I think he's still in the film, but of course they were killed on the set because Morrow and then another actor were decapitated and mutilated by the helicopter rotor blades.
Dead instantly.
Like they were killed upon impact.
And there's footage of it in one of the Faces of Death compilations. Usually the stuff in Faces of Death is fake.
It's fake, yeah.
But there's sometimes they throw in legit footage, like someone being shot in Brazil or something, and one of them actually has the footage slowed down.
Wow.
And it's horrifying. I didn't know Jennifer Jason Leigh was his daughter. I knew she had a famous dad. I didn't know it was Vic Morrow. I thought it was like Christopher Plummer or something. I thought it was like a notable Canadian actor.
An alive one.
Oh, so we know she's younger than the Twilight Zone movie. Okay.
Yes, sorry, we're on the topic of modern horror films, Cronenberg films. So I'm trying to remember some of the more newer Cronenberg films because I always think of, I remember we were talking about Cosmopolis.
His son's doing stuff now. He did.
That's right. His son more so probably fits the genre of science fiction horror.
Yeah.
I saw the one he did about celebrity meat.
That's right. Yes.
And I hated it.
Why did you hate it?
I just thought it was
like
dumb.
it either.
I thought it had.
Really?
I thought it was
the idea.
I thought it read like something you'd write when you were 16. Like this is society.
It's funny you bring that. It's funny that you bring that up. I think what it was too is also you know,
it's like his first movie
Canadian
too,
film,
though.
Low budget.
It was not low budget.
But I remember getting advance passes to see that in theater. I was writing for the local university newspaper, the Gateway.
The Gateway.
That Andy also wrote and did cartoons for. And Antiviral, that's right. Thank you. And I think the basic premise of that film is there's this kind of black market where people pay to be infected by viruses that affected like celebrities. So if you wanted to get like a cold sore that infected Britney Spears, you would pay big bucks, and that was the closest that people could get to celebrities. They couldn't be the celebrity or touch them or be with them, but they could at least be infected by the virus.
That does sound like a David Cronenberg Jr. movie.
Yeah,
that's fair.
And
he's really taking over body horror, like, you know.
But I remember seeing that film in theaters, and people did not like it. Like, they started walking out, like, even 30 minutes into the movie, and I remember by the end of the movie, like, half the theater was gone. Like, people had walked out before the final scenes.
I did like them, and it's weird.
He was a new one.
I saw it just not even outside of the theme, like, of body horror. Like, I felt the tone was very Cronenberg. Like, even the way people talk to each other.
Yeah, it was slow. It was weird.
Yeah, like, and it's a different world, but just slightly. Like, everyone's really obsessed with celebrities in this world, but just slightly more than we are.
Yeah, his new film is called Possessor. It actually just came out. Apparently getting great
That's
reviews.
Mandy, right?
Yeah, that's out right now.
That's right, yeah.
Possessor, yeah, we should watch it.
And here's a clip from Possessor. I don't know what it's about. Do you guys know the synopsis?
It's like switching bodies or minds or something.
Oh, interesting.
But it's really long.
Oh, you need that.
A woman named Holly sticks a probe into the top of her head and turns the dial button on a machine. Holly disconnects from the machine and goes to a party dressed in her work uniform as a hostess. After arriving at the party, she walks up to a wealthy attorney, grabs a knife, and brutally stabs him in the neck and gut. Everyone at the party flees in terror and calls a cop. And then it continues for paragraphs because it's Wikipedia and they're spoiled.
Yeah,
that's like describing like the movie scene by scene.
Yeah.
Interesting. Just looking up the IMDb description of it, it says it
there's some nice bodies in it.
Sci-fi thriller.
Sci-fi thriller. Oh,
Not quite.
Not quite.
Not quite.
Close, but no cigar.
Although I will say the same for Cloverfield. Remember that movie Cloverfield? It's like
I loved Cloverfield.
I did too, but
I
it
loved
wasn't.
it.
I'd count it as horror.
Yeah, but just barely. I feel
I'm
like
gonna say for the sake of argument, thriller, horror, same goddamn shit. Silence of the Lambs, horror.
Okay.
Don't care.
It's kind
Don't care.
It's a tonal difference
Fight me.
to me.
Nah. I feel like whenever something's a little bit classier, it's thriller. When it's about like true crime, it's a thriller. You know what I would say is like, okay, that can be a thriller. TV movie starring Magnum PI guy where he's like a cop in a small town.
Tom Selleck?
Yeah, Tom Selleck. Like there's a series of TV movies where he's like a cop in a small town and he discovers secrets. That's a thriller. But like Silence of the Lambs, Brandon Cronin's, that's horror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the precursor to the Silence of the Lamb films, Manhunter?
No, but I know about it. Who directed that?
Michael Mann.
Yeah. Oh.
And then they later remade it in 2002 with Edward Norton called Red Dragon.
Oh,
that was not bad.
So good.
Well, Ralph Fiennes, I feel, is the big standout.
Yeah, and Philip Seymour Hoffman.
All right,
because he's better
Hannibal,
looking.
right?
Come on.
He plays a younger, and yeah, for anyone who's not familiar, it's kind of it takes place before the Silence of the Lambs, where maybe a few years, like Hannibal Lecter is still in prison, but there's this cop who has to look for this serial killer, and of course they have to consult with Hannibal the cannibal to try to find him. So check out Manhunter, check out Red Dragon. You'll love it.
Are those sci-fi horrors?
I'd say those are just straight
Those
horror.
that's just horror. That's like super realistic horror.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I mean, to me, this reads more as a thriller.
But the
I don't know if
scariest
that's
scene is
Yeah, that's a thriller. I'd say Silence of the Lambs, horror, Red Dragon, thrill.
like when there's a FBI agent or a cop figuring out a murder. To me, that's a thriller usually.
But like the Silence of the Lambs is different though because it has that scene with the night vision goggles. That makes it horror.
Yeah, that's scary.
Wait,
that's
right.
horror.
Can you
That's
explain
the end,
that?
right?
Like why
There's a
that's horror?
scene at the end of the before the climax where Clarice is hunting down Buffalo Bill, and he's turned off all the lights in it. The basement. She's trapped down there. He's wearing night vision goggles. She's blind, and she's going blind. And you see from his perspective, her being
right. Yeah,
and that's a mind fuck.
It's like Wait Until Dark.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
Very good. Yeah. Okay. No, that's very fair and valid because that's like horrifying.
Why wasn't Red Dragon called the Quiet Lambs? They're not silent yet. What's the science fiction? What else? Frankenstein.
What about Frankenstein?
That's science fiction horror.
Yeah, that's true.
What's like the latest Frankenstein remake? Wasn't there like a German one that went to Netflix like a couple years back?
I've lost track.
Yeah, I mean it's tough to keep track with those.
I feel like let's let Frankenstein go and let's definitely let Dracula go.
Right.
It's done.
Yeah, the ideas that it's exploring are kind of done.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not. There's new iterations of vampires.
I think it's just there's too many. We could have a moratorium, like no movies for 30 years. Then we can do another Dracula.
Yeah. Then if you have a really good idea, but
yeah.
Well, I will say it's not a motion picture film, but it is an animated series. Castlevania is a brilliant rendition of Dracula, namely because you're kind of empathizing. You oddly enough are empathizing with all of these characters. You understand why Dracula hates humanity, why he wants to kill them all. You understand why Alucard, his son, was banned and put away, and then why he wants to come fight against his father. And you can identify with all these people, and it's just like brilliantly done. I watched it all, and I was like, whoa, I have never been so intrigued by an animated series film like that. And so, yeah, it's super brilliant. It's available on Netflix. Really worth a watch because it's amazing. So, I mean, that is kind of...
I've always felt like Dracula is a very empathetic character. Not as much as Frankenstein, you legitimately feel really bad for Frankenstein the whole... Because he's misunderstood, blah, blah, blah. But
you mean Frankenstein's monster?
Or Dr. Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Because the doctor was...
his name, right?
You're the real monster because you did semantics on that stuff.
You could empathize with the doctor.
He's really empathetic in the Werner Herzog version. Like because on top of being a sad character, like he's got an addiction. I feel like it's very heavily an allegory for addiction. He's an empath, like he experiences empathy for human beings in it, right? Like he's not just like he's just kind of sad in it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The Modern Prometheus by Mary Shelley. It was written by a woman like you.
Oh, lovely.
Mary Shelley.
When she was only 18.
Yeah, it was like this writing retreat where a bunch of great books were written.
Yeah, with who else?
Dracula, Percy Shelley, Mary Shelley, Percy.
They even made a movie about it. About how these young hot 20...
traveling Sisterhood of the Pants.
No. I know what you're talking about. It's like
I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah. It was on one of those listicle videos I saw.
Oh, it was Mamma Mia.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Mamma Mia.
Mamma Mia.
Well, the famous biopic of the horror writers.
Yeah. Remember that biopic, Mamma Mia, where they all do ABBA songs and it's about Mary Shelley, Bram Stoker, and who's the other one?
I forget.
And J.K. Rowling.
She is a monster.
Yes.
So.
The real monster is the TERFs.
Real monster is us. Can I list my favorite sci-fi horror films? And you can praise me or tear me apart.
Well, let's thumbs up, thumbs down.
Yeah,
these.
thumbs up, thumbs down. Okay, first one that came to mind.
Twilight.
Attack the Block.
About
these
aliens. This means I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's very fun. It's like an Edgar Wright.
Roman Emperor style in the middle.
Yeah.
It's a genre mashup. It's comedy, it's horror, it's sci-fi.
That looks like a...
It kind of came out at the same time as The End of the World.
That looks like a... You have to edit that out. It looked like I was doing... Like, seriously.
That's going to be our title.
Like, cut that.
It's your Halloween costume.
Nonfiction. Prometheus is from 2012, 30 years.
Thumbs way up.
I like
the surgery.
You didn't like it?
Okay.
No.
Why? Here's the thing. Even if you didn't like it,
boring.
did you like the surgery scene?
Oh, with like the auto thing?
Where she has to
that's
get
a good
in
fucking
there.
scene.
That is good.
Stapler.
That is good.
Yeah.
Scene.
Maybe it was a good scene. It was kind of copied by other movies like Passengers and later Elysium with the auto.
Yeah, those are both horrible.
You can't. Okay, Edmon.
I love
you
Passengers.
Can't blame those movies that came out after that for copying. If anything, that speaks to how good the scene was because it was copied.
Yeah, excellent scene.
Okay, continue.
Overrides.
One that I loved because it was the only other good movie directed by the director of the cult classic Donnie Darko, Richard Kelly. In 2009, he created a film called The Box, where if you push a button on the box, you get $1 million, but somebody somewhere died.
That's actually based
I haven't
on
seen it.
It's a short story.
They did a 1980s Twilight Zone.
Yes.
And that's an episode from that.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's
cool.
One of the few good, the only good one, probably.
I haven't seen The Box, but watched the 1997 Canadian classic sci-fi horror film, The Cube.
Oh, that is a good one.
Sorry,
I like
I didn't mean
The Cube.
to go on a tangent, but
yeah.
What's better, The Box or The Cube?
I haven't seen The Box, but it's
I
Box sounds
bet
better.
you know what's Cube? It's just one set. That's what I liked about from a filmmaking standpoint.
Cool.
They're like, what if
Low-budget
we just
Canadian
like?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
But they've made too many of them.
And guess who gets out alive? Out of there's like I forget, like 6 or 8 people, and only one survives.
The special needs guy.
Oh, spoiled it.
Wow. Don't need to see The Cube anymore.
Like the whole movie, it's like I don't want to see him die. This poor like guy, right? The gore.
Right, yeah, pretty violent.
Creative
movie.
gore,
Yeah.
like a fucking weird mesh fly swatter thing that just literally cubes a guy in the cube.
Wow.
It's cool.
And
It is
it's like-
cool.
Yes,
And they're like,
Yeah.
they slide, and then Resident Evil copied it.
that's right.
The cut and slide.
It all
Like-
started with
Oh,
this
yeah.
kind of
Mortal Kombat-ish.
low-budget
Yeah.
Canadian
Yeah.
film that
Yeah.
most people have never heard of.
That's so cool.
Sorry, Andy. What are
continue.
your other?
No, thank you for that film history. You always
High
have
five.
those gems.
High five.
Okay.
High five.
Okay, this one I was nervous to say because I don't know if it quite fits our criteria, but it was the first R-rated movie I ever saw. It shocked me so much that I counted the swear words. Don't quote me on this, but I counted 74 swear words because I was just like, they said it again. This was 1990s Tremors.
I love Tremors.
Oh, Tremors is
Worms
great.
Under the Ground. It's like a comedy.
Excellent comedy.
It's one of those movies
Yeah.
that they always showed, when I was a kid, right?
Yeah.
Like on, what was that channel? Like TNT or Turner
Classic
Network.
Movies.
CCM.
Well, not Turner Classic Movies, but
Cary Grant in Tremors.
You know what? I
Look here, see, there's worms
And
underground.
there's
see?
like a million. There's like a million sequels now.
And they're
Yeah.
gonna do another one with we all even if we're halal, we all like some Kevin Bacon.
Oh God! If he gets COVID, we're all fucked.
Oh shit.
Darn it.
The funniest part in that was like I remember watching it with my friend who like loved the sequel. That was her thing. She loved the Tremors movies. And just the part where Monster shows up and it's Reba McEntire and that other guy. And they
have the shotgun.
They look vaguely scared and then they walk over and it's just a fucking wall of guns.
So
It's like,
American.
let's just tiptoe to our wall of guns.
And they start shooting away. That's why America. That's why they love their guns.
That was a weird crossover episode of Reba.
Yeah, that was actually not a bad little sitcom.
All right, another
Cut that out too.
Another great by a filmmaker whose repertoire is so diverse. I think we need to appreciate that. Danny Boyle, 2002, 28 Days Later.
Oh, I love 28 Days Later. I love it.
Seen it.
Cillian
You haven't
Murphy.
seen 28 Days Later.
I haven't.
Did you see 28 Weeks Later?
I did not.
Helicopter death zombies.
But it was cool. Isn't it like that choppy?
That
action?
that
That's
was
right.
shot on
Fast.
DV, like
Whoa.
digital video, not even high def.
That's nuts.
Super British, super like that's Britain at that time. Like that's a bookmark of the time. And that was really kind of the first movie where the zombies they were
fast.
they were fast and they were
because he
technically
actually ran and they
they
were
were
intelligent. And,
alive. At one point,
and
you
hyper violent. They weren't like the slow moving zombies of George Romero movies.
Yeah, with the little kid in the gas station, you actually hear, if you listen closely, him say, "I hate you," and he
Really?
shoots him. Yeah,
Aw.
That's crazy.
I know.
Oh,
Because they're alive.
I gotta see that again.
I guess a good spiritual successor to that would be the Korean film Train to Busan.
Train to Busan.
Right.
That
I
even
love Train
did
to
better
Busan.
because
Yes.
on top of they're alive, they kind of have like a personality. Like
Right.
when they turn around, they like kind of smile almost. Like they're-
And there are some funny moments with them.
Oh,
where,
hilarious.
where you're laughing with them. You're like, oh shit, and then you're like, hey, run away now.
It's such a
Good.
Korean sense of humor. Like
is.
you're laughing at the people banging on the.
Right.
So Korean.
Question for you, thoughtful gentlemen and lady.
Sure.
Are zombies a sci-fi thing? Is that
Yeah,
is that-
yeah.
good question.
That's super. That really is the most science fiction horror thing.
Exactly.
And I think
Night of the Living
like I
Dead.
don't know the origins, but I remember the earliest zombie films from the 40s and 50s, the black and white ones. They were kind of rooted in like this Haitian mythology and about zombies and like voodooism and that little voodoo doll and
reincarnating the dead.
The Haitian voodoo zombie.
Yeah, Haitian voodoo zombie. That's right. One of the earliest movies was called The White Zombie.
Yeah. And then I Walked with a Zombie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's the name of the movie. I didn't actually walk with it. And
it's also the name of
the movie.
What is that Canadian artist? Oh, Tegan and Sarah.
Right.
I was walking with the zombies.
And I Walked with a Zombie, the movie, you know how it's funny when they say the title? The movie starts with her saying, I walked with a zombie.
Oh, cool.
I guess I did. See, Night of the Living Dead, I was sleeping on that. The original Dead trilogy, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. That's sci-fi horror.
That's true.
And Night of the Living Dead, that was Vietnam. Dawn of the Dead was consumerism before stuff.
Right.
And Day of the Dead, I haven't seen. Don't tell anyone.
I can't even remember it.
It's
But,
their
all
army base, and it's during the
they're
day.
stuck in like a bunker and
Yeah.
kind of a boring film. Sorry, Day of the Dead fans. I know you're out there. And,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What stays on the cast? What's said on the cast stays on the cast.
You've all seen the Dawn of the Dead, right? The 70s one.
I have not.
Maybe.
I've seen are you saying Shaun of the Dead?
No, Dawn of the. It's in a mall.
That's a great one.
yeah. It's actually really
Whoa.
fascinating to
I don't
think
think I've
of. Like I loved the 1970s movie. I saw it on VHS with my cousin back in the day, And I also love the 2004 remake.
It's
which
a
also
good
takes place in the
remake.
mall, and
Zack
it's got Sarah
Snyder.
Polley.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder. Great, like when Zack Snyder like actually made good films.
Yeah. No, he really. That's
Sorry, but 300 and
maybe
Man
one
Steel
of the best
doesn't
horror
compare.
remakes. Right?
Shots all the way from Mill Woods.
I
Take
watched.
that, Zack
I remember
Snyder.
watching Dawn of the Dead remake twice, like in one day, because I loved it so much. The second time I watched it was to hear the commentary. But that's how much I love that movie, and it's so interesting to watch this movie in this day and age when malls left and right all over North America are being closed. And like to think of this dying, abandoned shopping center, like they're everywhere. Like even here in Edmonton, we have a few shopping malls that are on the brink of closing, and some of them are going to be demolished in a few years to be redeveloped.
Rest in peace, Capilano Mall.
But yeah,
Nah, that
exactly.
one's
You know,
care
like
about that one.
yeah, Dawn of the Dead was all about kind of blatant, mindless consumerism,
And it's funny,
now,
right?
now
Like,
these malls are zombie buildings themselves. Abandoned.
There's that one
and
in
empty and
Calgary that's
demolished.
like it's new, but it's not
that,
even.
that,
That's
that was a
right.
weird
The New
concept though, because
Horizon
the one in
Mall.
Calgary they were doing it was like a weird market
right.
thing,
like
they
a
were-
giant,
what were
nice flea market.
yeah
little
Yeah, pretty
thing.
much.
because who doesn't want to go to that, a luxury flea market?
Kind of cool.
Yeah,
Clean flea market.
I think they were trying to go
kinda
for like
cool.
a Asian-oriented market, but
Right.
like indoors and big. But I think the big issue is they built it right across a very successful mall, the Cross Iron Mills Mall.
Wait,
which-
really?
Yeah, they're
it's
built
like
right across
That's
from each other.
stupid.
Yeah. That's why it's like pretty still
That's
bare.
so dumb.
So if anyone
I know,
wants
it's
to
a bad
film
idea.
a zombie movie in this day and age, it's a good
Yeah.
place to do it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could film a movie in
They
there.
could use the money.
Yeah. Train to Calgary.
C
That might also be a reality.
C train to Saddle Dome.
That's truly horrifying.
Man,
It's
the
all these
sequel-
cowboy hat
Well,
zombies.
Oh, were those all your picks, Andy? Or?
Well, I
Oh,
also
yeah, sorry.
wouldn't be complete without.
These are good picks, FYI.
yeah, they're pretty good.
The thing that I'm obsessed with, which I've already talked your ears off, is the Netflix show Dark, this German
Dark.
production, which is, I think, a beautiful confluence of science fiction and horror. It's truly spooky.
Is it scary?
It's
It's creepy.
It's creepy.
And it's that kind of very subtle form of like ambient horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where it just kind of
yeah.
sits with you.
Yeah. I find I can't sleep after watching it, and I just want to watch more.
Let me tell you how I found out about that show. I was in Cuba with my family,
Wow.
and this German woman was. And oh boy.
Okay, so I wanted to tell you, you know, I made that half page of notes. Well, watching Dark, this is my page of notes for
And it
Dark.
kind of looks like something from Dark.
The family
Holy
map.
I drew up
crap.
the family map.
How is okay? So
Why
I
don't
do
you just look it up on the
crazy
internet?
scribble notes. Yours are so neat. Mine are like look like they were written by a 5-year-old. Like because when I'm getting an
I
idea
gotta get
out,
a
I
big
just
book
Yeah.
like that.
Same.
yours are so methodical.
Well, I really wanted to figure out
like
the
a
connections in the
serial
story.
killer.
Well, no, because if he were a serial killer, he'd have to cut out all this lettering from different newspapers and
So much
tie it
work.
with
How you
yarn
taunt your
string
victims.
and
He's
more,
not trying to
you know,
taunt
like-
himself.
Or the Riddler.
Yeah.
I feel like Andy would be a great Riddler.
I remember in the
Riddle me this, riddle me that.
the cartoon version, like the animated one as a kid, he had a big bulge in that. Like, he did. Like I remember.
You
he had a-
would.
Oh, and like the animated series one?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
He
crazy.
had a huge
I'm
bulge.
watching that right now.
He had a
so-
huge bulge.
Well, go back to the Riddler
I don't really
episode and
Pause.
I wasn't really
Computer.
paying attention.
Enhance.
Is Blade Runner considered sci-fi horror?
That's
just gonna
not
think about
horror.
it.
That's not horror. That's like the
What is that?
So the
Sci-fi
it's
noir.
sci-fi drama horror.
That's
drama.
right, and we already had an episode about sci-fi neo-noir, so we can't
Ish.
talk about Blade Runner, but there are some
Ooh.
creepy scenes, like when he goes to that mansion to that one guy who has a Methuselah syndrome, so he looks older than his actual age, and there's all these toys and mechanical dolls.
But
and-
even that, I don't feel like that's done creepy. Like the whole, I'd never creeped out during that movie. I feel like that movie is like a it's like it feels like a massage you're gonna get, a really great massage, but after the massage you're gonna be executed.
Oh, okay.
Like it has that weird feel of being calming, beautiful, and serene.
So there's no
but
happy ending?
unnerving and melancholy. It's so bittersweet.
Ooh.
Great analogy.
Would to run on the TV series idea, would the Netflix series Ratched be a sci-fi?
That's not
horror?
sci-fi at all.
Never. I don't get.
How is
Netflix.
it sci-fi?
No, that's fair. I was
Like
stretching
everything
there.
that happens in it is like could happen. Like it wouldn't.
I guess I was
But,
like, I guess I was like thinking about like it was a period.
some
sci-fi because
American
of the-
horror story stuff is kind of
Right, I guess you
sci-fi.
could call it
but
that more so.
I felt like Ratchet's so weird. So have you seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest?
Yes.
Have you
I love
seen
that
one?
movie.
I
Yeah,
haven't.
I've seen it.
So it's weird because Ratchet is so tonally different than One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is very much a realistic 70s drama, and Ratchet is like this melodrama 50s, like Ryan Murphy, right? So it's like it's weird. It's like they took a movie about we're gonna do a series about Taxi Driver, but it's a musical. Like it's like tonally so different.
Right.
Well, I think I brought it up because like I've been watching a lot of Hitchcock films, and I wouldn't consider like Hitchcock sci-fi horror, but it's like Hitchcock's like very well known as like one of the original horror, get people out of the theater sort of genres. But I was just kind of curious because Ratchet.
Yeah, the birds is sci-fi kind
I
of.
guess,
Yeah,
right. That's what I was kind of leaning
It's
towards.
biological horror, like ecological sci-fi.
Ecological.
Yeah,
Definitely. And that's still, I guess you could say, science fiction, right?
Yeah.
Of course, swarms of birds are not attacking us, but yeah. And that's interesting. I just like see all these different types of genres, especially in Hitchcock's films. Hence the Edith Head attire. Tippi Hedren in that has an amazing wardrobe. She actually only wears one piece, and it's this green. It's a specific
she's
type
a
of green.
piece in it.
Chartreuse?
No, it's not chartreuse. It's like a specific name. It's like a French-sounding name for a green.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like a slightly nicer than pukey green. It's a horrible description of it. But she wears it. She wears it the whole time, and it's important to the film. Anyways, yeah, like it feels like especially Hitchcock in of himself has like been a huge pioneer of a lot of these
Vetiver. Vetiver?
Yeah, that's right.
Vetiver.
I can't remember if that's the exact right. I was just watching like a bunch of special features on Blu-rays of them, but like you think about Hitchcock and you think more like suspense, mystery, and it is still horrific though. They're like, I mean, first time you watch Psycho, it's pretty like the classic Halloween sound.
That was the first one where it was really like he just did an unabashed horror movie. You know, like before they were kind of. I know I just like I'm foot and mouth, but like before they were kind of more quote thrillers.
Yeah,
right?
they're more suspense thrillers.
And Psycho was the
right?
first one. No, this is horror. Someone gets fucking stabbed.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a question for you. So we're making this distinction between horrors proper and science fiction horrors, and I think we know them to see them. But why are movies where where the horror device is something like demonic possession? Why is that not sci-fi? Is that
it's not science? It's the paranormal. You know. That's the end.
Which I guess you could argue. I mean, a lot of science fiction is theorizing about something that's beyond ourselves, in space, aliens. You could say that to an extent. That's also supernatural.
Yeah, it's paranormal. It's
yeah,
like outside of a realm of our understanding.
Okay, or Rosemary's Baby.
Oh. That's not sci-fi.
Not sci-fi.
Yeah, excellent motion picture.
Sure. Right.
Made by a monster.
A real life monster.
No, that's a good point. I only kind of dive in and bring up Hitchcock and love it, not for only the wardrobe. If I would have been able to, which probably wouldn't have pulled off good at all, I would have dressed as Bernard Herrmann, who is such an incredibly legendary composer, which is he's the composer of the very sound effect you just heard, which is Psycho's stabbing, which gets deeper and deeper as the knife goes deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
Crazy how like visceral and simple, and everyone in the world knows that. You know?
Yeah, it stabs your ears.
Pretty brilliant.
He did do a score for The Birds, and there's rumors. I don't know. There's some funny story that I don't know, but he did a whole score for The Birds. Something happened, and then Hitchcock just said, "We're just not going to have a score." So that's why the movie has no score. Wow. And it's creepy. There's no music.
I'd like to hear it with the score.
No, The Birds is good without music.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think a lot of like this type of music, this Bernard Herrmann score, has the same effect as what you were saying, to hit a note that makes you feel a certain way, like sick or viscerally?
There's an uncanniness to it.
There is. This is from Vertigo.
This is from Psycho.
Oh, that's right. I love that little wandering.
Oh, see, the stabbing strings at the end do the exact same thing as the...
Right. Oh, I love this.
And the credits, Phoenix.
I have a fun little story
Present
to tell
day.
about being at the, what is it called? The Universal... What is in Hollywood, in LA? There's the
Universal Studios.
Studios, right? And you can take the tour that shows the lots and where they shot films. And the last one is the
Psycho House.
But I was with 3 other friends. One of which was Spanish, like myself. The other one was Indian, and the last one was a African American gentleman.
United Nations.
The funniest thing was we were at the very back of like the tour guide. And so we get to like just, we're in the back fooling around. There's like a kid in front of us and we're just like talking to him and playing with him. And then when we get to the Psycho Motel, we're like, oh, that's really cool. And then you see the Norman Bates actor standing out there, right? And he's just like standing out there with a knife really menacingly, not moving, right? And you're just like, oh, okay, that's fucked up, right? And you're driving and you're like, oh, we're driving like next to that fucker. Like you're going right next to him, right? So he starts like taking little steps forward and we're like, okay, well, it's pretty like closely timed to like the back of the car. So as we're like getting closer to him, he's going closer and closer and closer. And he starts running after us.
Creepy.
My black friend jumps out of his seat across in front of next to the kid. And me and my other friends are dying, cackling. We're like, oh my God. He was like, he was going to kill me, man. He was so seriously shook. But it was beautiful because it's like the film became real in that moment, right? I loved it. It was so hilarious.
There used to be...
I've been on that tour and I've never... Now, I was a kid, but I've never seen that.
Oh, really?
Like the actor running towards the...
Lucky you.
Yeah.
They must have changed it up.
There wasn't an actor.
There used to be a ride at Universal Studios where it was called, I think, the Alfred Hitchcock Presents Experience or some shit.
Cool.
And you got to like peek behind the camera and see how his movies were made.
It's cool.
So there's a shot from one of his early movies where someone's like falling off a cliff, but and you see how that effect is done.
Oh, cool.
And then there's a part where they take someone from the audience to do the shower scene, like recreate it in real time.
That's wild.
And usually there was like they do something funny, like they get a guy to be Janet Leigh and like,
okay.
Jamie Lee Curtis's mom.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
But not
Rest
Jennifer
in peace.
Jason Leigh's mom.
Strange.
Yeah, I've just been very deeply in love with Bernard Herrmann's music. I found a deep respect for people that like do score specifically for films because it's so tailored to the emotion and the feeling. And I mean, like when you hear Bernard Herrmann's stuff, it's like, listen to this.
It's like
This is gorgeous.
you just want to have sex with the music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
you
beautiful
feel like you're a
music.
spy.
Like
I'm not sure if I
not
would
during,
choose it.
but like literally have sex
Yeah,
with
it's
the
like
music.
a dream.
And what's beautiful, like something like this is from Vertigo, and
Right.
the film itself is about this man who is just an everyday man, but gets thrust into this spy thriller, essentially. And it just fits it beautifully, but it's also unsettling, and it takes you through all those little weird valleys.
Yeah.
Sorry, side trip about gushing on Herrmann.
When I was
It's
little and I'd see those old movies with people who I felt were so independent. Like I always kind of wanted to be Janet Leigh in Psycho just because she was so independent.
Yeah. She was a working woman.
She
in the
drove her own car
60s.
and she went to her little motel and it was black and white and it was gorgeous.
Yeah.
And if you look at the dialogue in that movie, outside of the writing of it, it's delivered so much more adult and realistically than a lot of other movies at the time. Like the conversation she has over sandwiches and milk with Norman Bates, like it's so authentic and unnerving.
Yeah.
Like just the part where she says, well, maybe you could, and he's like, maybe what? And she's like, well, that's not what I like.
Yeah,
It's uncomfortably realistic, but also high Hollywood at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I bring it up just to say, like, not that I missed that because I never lived through that era, but like, is it possible?
This is Vertigo.
Yeah, this is Vertigo, but is it still possible to have this? You know, like this beautiful yet weird feeling.
I want to do a science fiction alien abduction movie that's done exactly as it would have been. Like literally, like if you told someone this movie was made in the 1950s,
Oh, in that style?
Yeah, I want to do one exactly like that,
great.
like to a T.
That would be
but like
cool.
without racism. And,
Right.
You need
they
it in
kinda
there.
did that
No,
with,
no, no. I want to.
You said exactly.
How
You know
authentic
how-
do you want to be?
You know how Quentin Tarantino kind of reinvented history with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
Yeah.
I'd like to do a movie where it's like a 1950s movie, but it's got a black lead and he doesn't experience any racism, and it's like,
Right.
like make a nice little
like kind of a retro history.
yeah, like just make
Like
a
Inglourious Bastards, right?
nice movie where it's like, oh, wouldn't it have been nice if the 50s was like that, and old movies we could look
Right.
at and not cringe sometimes, you know.
You know what? And like, I mean, Get Out comes to mind. Obviously, it doesn't do that, but I think that's what maybe I was looking for when I watched a film like that. I was like, oh, let's see, like in the context of like no racism, how much of a vacuum that feels like, because we know our world and our reality and how weird that feeling is. And maybe that's the horror. It's like, oh, we're actually like this. But what would it look like to be a man going through the 50s with no racism? You know?
Yeah.
I think that would be incredible.
Yeah, that'd be a cool film.
Absolutely.
Call up Jordan Peele.
No. We're doing it right now. Right here with these mics.
There's this new HBO show, Lovecraft County, and I don't really know that much about it, but Lovecraft was an enormous racist.
Oh, wow.
And
Didn't
as
know
a like decade, huge racist, and like almost I think 100 years after, as a huge troll to him, the movie starring black people.
Oh, crazy. Wow.
Or the show starring black people.
Yeah.
I
haven't seen that show, but I do want to watch it.
It's got a hot black guy as the lead.
Hot black.
It's like I've never seen it, but the remake or re-envisioning of Birth of a Nation, like it was.
Oh, that movie.
Oh, right. No, I didn't see that either.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen the original.
Wait, so are the black people Klansmen?
I'm not sure. I haven't seen. I haven't seen either.
I
You
like
know,
Edmund's
neither
reaction.
film, but you know, like I do understand that the first one was you have to look at the period in which it was made, right?
Yeah, I heard someone call that movie problematic, and I'm like,
Problematic?
problematic?
Very
You
polite
think problematic? Problematic.
Actually, I did have a film I wanted to ask you guys about if you had
Sure.
seen it, and
Yeah.
it's the 2018 film High Life. Have any of you seen it?
I'm
it's-
probably gonna watch it tonight now.
You really should
yes.
if you haven't.
A24 film
It definitely
takes
Robert
place on a
Pattinson.
starring Robert Pattinson.
takes place on a space station.
That's right.
And,
The director is Claire Denis.
Denis.
She does a lot of cool. Actually, funny enough, this film's genre is exactly sci-fi horror, according to, I assume it's IMDb page.
I
But
want the space to be spooky, you know.
I think this is like probably the most perfect example of sci-fi horror that I have seen as of late, and I was very taken by it. I wouldn't say I was actually horrified,
Travail.
but I can understand. Again, it kind of has similar themes to, let's say, Children of Men in like this Last of Humanity, propagation of life, how visceral and kind of gross the act of sex can be, and how even how systematic it can be in a setting like this. And also just like, again, taking life and shooting it off into space and how wild that can be. But it's definitely a film worth watching. I guess that would even be my recommendation for the evening. Not that I'm looking to tie things up, but
Well, we're almost at the 2-hour mark. We might as well.
yeah, I mean, decent.
Does anyone have any other sci-fi horror films they'd like to bring up? This was a good episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Twas.
That
Yoshi is just tipping ever
He's like,
more so
Yoshi.
to one side.
Yoshi!
That was good.
Yoshi!
I
All
wish
I
I
can
could
do
get
is
the other
toad.
arm working.
I feel like you wear this regularly.
we
feel like you must.
Like, we just sit in silence and he does that for 20 minutes. And
I'll
we
just have,
we break the internet.
No, it's
What,
just
so
like
those ASMR videos where I'm just doing this.
Can you hold the pump up to the mic?
But what a now
not that one.
can you wait? Can you hold it up to the mic again?
Hold it up to the mic.
Okay, now squeeze the tip a little bit. Okay, now stroke up and down.
Oh, now listeners, hold on now, listeners.
It's not what you think.
It's not what you think.
It's better.
See, I have to copy it to see that's the costume wearing off on me.
Wow.
Yeah,
A real life
sorry,
monster.
Is Gerardo Ramos the new Harvey Weinstein?
Spoiler alert. Yes.
No.
No, you're supposed to say.
You would have had to have been alone with a woman.
Oh no! Too real. Too real.
So he's in jail now, right?
Yeah, he's definitely in jail. Robbie in jail.
Is there any updates? Because I always like to hear we get the they're not doing well updates.
No. I don't think so. But the last I remember, he looked like an elderly man with a walker going into his.
No,
court
that the
hearing.
walker was for show, though.
You think?
Yeah, it
He looked
was
pretty
because
ragged.
they pictured him like the day after just walking. He was
okay.
doing it to try to get sympathy. Didn't work.
Okay.
Alms for the rich. Okay, I have a sci-fi horror thing. This will take the place of my recommendation because we've talked about some that I love. I love Dark and I love The Box. I think they did a lot with their little idea and they did it well. But this kind of touches on your point of how are they doing in jail now. Years ago, about 15 years ago, in Edmonton, Alberta, there was an aspiring sci-fi filmmaker who had raised $35,000 to make a Star Wars fan fiction film.
I know.
After the fact, while that film was being edited, apparently it was just a giant hot mess.
It was never released too, but they did film it.
Yes, this filmmaker's name was Mark Twitchell. His next project,
Killing someone
based on a screenplay that he was writing that tied him to these killings, that explained these killings.
Yeah, and it was inspired by Dexter, right?
Yes, Dexter.
Oh, wow.
But he kind of revealed who he was to the police. And
Yeah. It was kind of a landmark case because they discussed the role, the influence that popular television has on the killers.
Yeah, I remember at the time that happened like mid 2000s,
That's right.
like 2008,
Yeah.
I think, and it was all over the news. Like you would watch Dateline NBC, and in fact, when they were filming for Dateline NBC, they were interviewing this comedian who I think you might have known, Mark, and they were filming at my work, and I work at this military armory in the South Side that most people have never heard of, and Dateline NBC was interviewing this comedian in relation to this Mark Twitchell story. Really unfortunate that guy died, and
We have the same alma mater.
Vic Comp?
No, Nate.
Oh, Nate. Okay.
Like with him, we have something in common with. Outside of that, we're both filmmakers.
Yeah,
we have another thing in common with.
Yeah, and I think what it was,
and it's not the murder.
He wanted to film like a horror scene in like his garage in like Mill Woods.
Yeah.
But he catfished these people. He posed
like
as a woman. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this 38 like oil field worker, who legitimately thought that he'd be meeting with this beautiful woman, only to encounter Mark Twitchell and say, "Hey,
real disappointment.
Hey, can we film something?" And for this little, horror film I'm making, and then the guy died. I
That's
can't describe
sad.
how he died. Very graphic, but I know he was beheaded, and they found his head. It was something out of Seven, right? They found it like in this bridge in Edmonton, like this little opening where Mark Twitchell dropped the head, and he even told the police, "Hey, this is where the head is. It's in this bridge, in this area."
Yeah.
So.
He got $35,000 to do a fan film
Of Star Wars. Yeah.
I'll
a
make
lot of money
two
back
like
in the day.
real movies.
And
with
right
that.
now they are petitioning to have that footage released so that the world can finally see this horrible
this garbage.
fan fiction film in its glory.
Well, keep in mind this was
That
also
pisses me off. He got $35,000 to make a fan.
I know,
I'm
in 2005.
Okay, I'm calling it right now. I'm gonna make a feature soon with less than $35,000.
You do it. You do it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Good.
Yeah, so that's my downer of a story. It's like I think that part of the draw of horror is that it's like, oh well, real life isn't that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's just relief by
Sometimes
contrast.
And now
it
we
is,
are
though.
living through this everyday horror of a deadly disease that you
can't see.
or touch or really feel. And the horrible part is that lots of people have died, but we're finding now that even if you were infected and people do make a recovery, they're never the same again. Their quality of life is never the same again. Their lungs don't function as well. They're weaker than they were before they were infected. And now we're living in the social distance age where a lot of us are stuck at home behind a screen, working and experiencing things. People are getting married from a distance, and where people are
they're still having weddings.
Well, I'm just saying, like,
And they're
you can't
consummating
have,
them.
yeah, like people don't have these big wedding celebrations.
They shouldn't have these big wedding celebrations.
We're
I think
limited,
big
at least in
weddings
Alberta,
are
we're
so-
limited to 15 people for public gatherings.
That's all you need for a wedding. Come on,
But
people.
we're living everyday horror.
Um,
Depending on how you look at it, right? One of those, is a glass half empty or is it half full?
It's a
I
horror
remember
opportunity.
At the beginning of the lockdown, the Invisible Man was one of the big we're doing this was going to be in theaters, but we're going to do an at-home premiere.
Right.
You can get it on demand.
Along with-
and it's just good. The remake with Elizabeth Moss, great film, but
Right.
it's just interesting too. It was like they knew, like it's a movie about an invisible villain, like COVID.
Yeah.
My recommendations are just John Carpenter. Some of them aren't sci-fi, some of them aren't horror, but just go home and watch John Carpenter's movies.
Absolutely.
Not Escape from LA. Escape from New York, yes. Not Escape from... Well, okay. Watch Escape from LA for knowing that you're going to laugh a lot. Ghosts of Mars, I don't know.
There's a remake of that, right?
No, Ghosts of Mars is from 2002. And it's
Oh.
not like a... Well, let's remake this movie.
Oh.
Ice Cube.
That was just him. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, go home, watch John Carpenter, and listen to his music.
Cool.
Right. He's known for his music.
Yeah.
Edmon?
Oh, yeah, they fucking live. That I wouldn't call They Live horror though. It's almost kind of a comedy in some ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Edmund, do you have a recommendation?
I'm trying to remember the name of. I'm trying to remember the name of the film, but I know one of the earlier podcast episodes we were talking about our first awakening, sexual awakening, and one of the films was Carrie, and not because of the opening scene where it's in the locker room and with all these young women, but it's one of the scariest films because I was raised in a very Roman Catholic family where we have statues of Jesus and crucifixes all over the house. And one of the creepiest scenes was when Carrie, who was raised by a very religious fundamentalist mother, forces her to pray. And there's some sort of kind of Jesus-like statue. Very scary. And it scared me because I also had a statue of Jesus in the room that I slept in when I was really young. And I could not go to bed that night fearing that statue, and after watching Carrie, and of course the end scene, right? I won't spoil it for you. Where, one of the main characters is visiting Carrie's grave, and it was a late 70s film or mid 70s film, and there always has to be that kind of shock jump ending that was so emblematic of 70s 80 films. But yeah, one of those films that I will revisit every now and then, and it still scares me to this day.
And that is kind of science fiction, because telekinesis and
That's right.
even more in depth in
powers.
The Stephen King book was very explicitly explored as a scientific phenomenon.
And 1976, Carrie by Brian De Palma, so not the remake with Chloe Moretz that came out in 2012 or 2013.
What about the TV movie version?
I didn't like that either, even though it was supposed to be closer to the novel, right? I can't even remember it.
What did you think of the prom sequence?
I'd have to watch it. I watched
the prom
it 18 years
sequence
ago.
is pretty good.
Yeah.
Not the Chloe Grace Moretz one. Like
The
like they
made-for-TV
really
one.
shit the bed on that.
Yeah.
But the made for TV one, the prom sequence goes on. It feels like most of the movies, the prom sequence, which is really what you want.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's my pick, and along, of course, with classic William Friedkin film, The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Either the original or the 2000 touched up remastered version,
which they are showing in Metro Cinema.
This hour's mine.
Oh yes.
Originally, they were gonna do the voice. They got Linda Blair to do the voice, and it wasn't working. So they got this.
She was an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah, because she was 11. But they got her to they got her to lower her voice, and then they tried to process it, like slow it down, and it still wasn't working. So they got this voice actor who chain smoked and ate raw eggs to get
raw eggs.
What an excellent day for an exorcist.
Was it a woman or a man?
Crazy.
I forget.
That must have been the gnarliest phlegm.
I think it was a man.
Oh, okay.
Damn.
What an excellent day for... Yeah, I'm going to go to The Exorcist with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Wow.
I can't back down from that.
I love 70s horror.
Did you have a recommendation, or you want to end it on the Death Note?
He read out his list of like 7 movies.
That's true.
Yeah, I'd say Dark. I mean, if
Cool.
people you've heard of it, it's so good.
How do you say dark in German?
Dark.
You can't just put an accent and say this is how you say it.
It is the same word.
Is it?
Okay.
Some German
Whoa.
words
That makes sense.
like warm is the same. A lot of them.
Cool.
Because English is derived from German.
9.
And that's where Gothism originated, right? The Goths.
The Goth,
Well,
yeah,
maybe from France,
the
too.
original Goths.
So were your
OG.
ancestors Goths?
Yeah, they were darker people.
Apparently, they're also the originators of the Illuminati, which is now supposedly in America. So
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
good job, Anthony.
I'm so sorry. I don't know. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, my recommendation is High Life. I already said it, but if you're kind of like, Halloween and darkness and sci-fi, and you're kind of drained, please go watch Hubie Halloween on Netflix. It is Adam Sandler's.
I got to check out this. Netflix.
no.
It is Adam Sandler's.
No, I
film.
will
Let me have my
not.
piece. Adam Sandler's latest film. It is just a fun, hilarious time. Of course, he's being his idiot Adam Sandler self, but there's some honestly hilarious moments and some semi-heartwarming ones too.
So it's an Adam
that'll-
Sandler movie.
That'll cleanse your
Sorry,
palate. from all
I'm
that.
sorry. You didn't talk over me.
Is it better than a
but-
lot of his Netflix movies?
Actually, it is. It's pretty good.
Wow.
You know, my favorite Netflix Adam Sandler movie was The Brief Period Punch Drunk Love by an actual
yeah.
director was
Yeah.
on because that has that. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just
Oh,
talking
that's
about
okay.
Punch Drunk Love. That's it.
That's maybe a segue
That's a
for our
Netflix film?
next episode.
No, it was like on
It's not
Netflix
on
for a
Netflix.
brief
Oh,
period.
right. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, that came out before Netflix was invented.
yeah. Oh,
That's a great movie, and it uses a song from as its theme. It uses a song from Robert Altman's Popeye.
oh. Whoa.
That's weird. Okay.
Okay, well, on that note, gentlemen, this has been a lovely, fun, and wonderful podcast.
We should just do horror movies all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
different
need to watch way more.
subgenres.
I need to watch
No,
way more.
next time we have to do the opposite of horror movies.
Which are
Um,
musicals?
Children's movies?
Gay erotic
No,
movies?
there's children. I would say comedy.
Okay.
Horror
Oh,
comedy?
interesting.
Because
Never done that
comedy
yet.
in a lot of ways has a very visceral reaction, the same to
Right.
horror, but also it's
Opposite
kind of the opposite. You're scared, you laugh. Make you laugh, it'll make you cry, make you wonder why. I'm Gerardo Ramos.
Signing off. All right, bye everybody. Bye.
Boils and
Take care.
ghouls.
Have a happy Halloween and a spooktacular time.
Wait, I'm gonna do a mashup.
When you get to my door, tell them all is
Remember on The Simpsons on Valentine's Day, the radio DJ kept accidentally playing.
my graveyard smash.
This is low key a fucking bop.
This is
like,
a bop.
like
You can monster
when this comes on, everyone cuts the fucking floor like
a
they're
vibe.
ripping up carpet.
Okay, wait, I'm gonna mash it up with this.
impetuous young boy.
Bye everybody. Bye.
Bye. Happy Halloween. Ooh. Happy belated Halloween.
All right.